Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy that you guys are here. And thank you so much for sacrificing an hour of your Wednesday night. I hope I and Joanne can make it worth it. So I'm just going to get straight into it and let you guys know about today's agenda. So we're going to start with welcome and introductions, and then we're going to move on to part one, which is where I lay out the importance of being in community and some potential barriers to doing that. Then I'll move on to tell you guys about, well, no, I'll pass over to Joanne and she will tell you guys about how to build community as well as utilize it for your transformation. And then we'll close with Q&A and tell you guys how to stay connected with us. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Diane Adebayo and I am the host of today's event. This is my second webinar and there will be a lot more, so make sure to stay connected. I'm an inspirational speaker, a social entrepreneur. I founded Here in You, which is a community interest company which goes into schools and does resilience programs, especially for young girls and women, but not just them. I'm an aspiring psychologist, and above all, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, and I'm a friend. And I just try to live a life where I inspire other people, innovate new ideas, and make impact. And today I've got Joanne with me. I'm not sure who's going to introduce herself. She'll probably do it later. But Joanne is the founder of Her Light, which is a women's network. It's amazing. I'm actually a part of it, and I'm sure some of you might have come across it. She's also passionate about community building, which is why I've got her here with me tonight. So thank you, Joanne. And she is a mental health advocate, as well as a speaker and a visionary. So before I get into my main bit, I would like you guys to drop in the chat what you think community means to you. I'll just give you a minute for that. Fellowship, yeah. Unity, yeah. And you could also let me know examples of communities that come to mind. Community to me means togetherness. Thank you. Support, yeah, great ideas. When when is a great community. So like a network where people can connect and find opportunities. That's a great example of community. So I was thinking about what community is, and I had all the thoughts that you guys put into the chat: support, friendship, family. And something that stuck out to me was this, that sorry, that community is where we choose to be, not where we are forced to be. So for example, you might be at university, you might be at school, but that on a surface level might not be community, but it's when you go further, when you choose to join societies and after school clubs because you've chosen to be there, you've chosen to belong there. And I want you to bear that in mind as we move forward through this webinar, that you have the choice to decide where you want to be, who you want to be your support system, your closest friends, who you want to be there in your hardest times. So why be in community? The title of this webinar is How to Use Community for Your Growth in 2025. But honestly, it's being in community all through your life. So I'm just going to give you some reasons as to why you should be in community. But knowing me, there's a twist. I would like you guys to try and fill in this blank. It's common sayings that a lot of us might know, but I'm just going to use them to try and highlight to you the importance and reasons to be in community. So as blank sharpens blank, so one person sharpens another. You could just drop it in the chat. As blank sharpens blank, what do you guys think it is? As a knife, iron, yeah. Iron, knife, iron. Is it iron for both blanks? Both, yes. So the saying is, and it's a Bible verse actually, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. One of the most important reasons for me as to why I choose to be in community is because of like accountability. I've actually got an example on here. Shout out to my friends. You guys might spot yourself on these screenshots. But I love being surrounded by people who take my goals, ambitions more seriously than I do. I have friends who always keep me on point. My friend here is telling me, how much have you done with your to-do list? And that's what community does. You are sharpened by other people who are either better than you or going in a similar direction with as you. So that's one of the main reasons why community is so important. And if you want to grow this year, if you want to transform, if you want to level up, whatever you want to do, community can really be a catalyst for that. My next one, if you want to go far, go blank. But if you want to go further, go blank. Again, you guys can drop it in the chat. I'll give you a minute or two. Alone with others, alone with people. Yeah, kind of. So the saying is actually, if you want to go far, go alone. But if you want to go further, go together. The second reason why I believe we all should be in community this year is because, like I said, it is a catalyst. It's catalytic power and momentum. And here's my example and my personal experience. I've got an amazing friend in which we do things together, we plan content together. And I find that doing it with her has allowed me to execute it like quicker, because I find if I do it by myself, there's a longer period of time between the idea and the execution, and that's where like self-doubt and all of that creeps in. But having someone who is going in a similar direction as me allows me to not only go faster, to go with more momentum and clarity, but to also go further. And my other one is show me your blank and I will show you who blank are. I have to try so hard not to say the full thing. So yeah, just put it in chat. Friends and you, friend, you. Friend. Yes, spot on. Everybody got it right. Show me your friends and I will show you who you are. And I find that this saying, this quote is usually used to like say, oh, if you got bad friends, you're a bad person. But I was thinking about it that I've had so many experiences where I'm speaking to someone, I'm like, you think just like me. And being able to understand them has actually helped me to understand myself better. And sometimes it's not just you, you're helping someone else learn new things and learn new things about themselves. Like how many of you have possibly like experienced, you're speaking to a friend and they're talking about this and they're awakening a passion and an interest in you that you didn't know you had before. Or you've got a friend who's, struggling with something and then there's empathy that arises and you're like, and you possibly didn't know you were like that before. And that's why I put this there, learning about yourself. And here's my example. I had a friend who messaged me, such a cute message actually, but she mentioned learning something from me. And I think that's the benefit of friendship as well, that you don't just learn about you or yourself, you're also learning from each other. So that's why I put that saying, to show that your friends can show you who you are. They can be a reflection, they can help you discover yourself, they can be a mirror onto you. And then I think this might be my last one. Your blank is your blank. This one might be a bit hard. Your blank is your blank. Any ideas? Another hint. Your something is your something. That was such a bad hint. Okay. Um, think about it, community. Like, I just feel like if I'm gonna spill it, so I'll let everyone sit on it for a minute, then I'll say it. But your blank is your blank. Something they say about community, your blank is your blank. Friendship, your blank is your blank. Oh, yes. That's where we got it. Your network and net worth. Yes, your network is your net worth. Um, there's so much power in community, and I hope you guys are learning this now, but community provides access to opportunities, to circles, to environments that you possibly wouldn't have been able to get to. Not necessarily like things like nepotism alone, but things like your friend being on this network and being able to tell you about it, or your friend being in this room and being able to recommend you. And that's the power of community, because you're united. You obviously want each other to go far. You have each other's best interest. And here's my example. So last year, I had the privilege of doing a placement year at Evelina London, and I didn't get it because I knew someone, but I got access to apply for it because I knew someone. And that really showed me the importance of having a network, but also being able to use it. So in my case, I came across that person when I was a patient and they were my doctor. And they always said to me, yeah, you can do work experience. And then I reached out. You have to, shoot your shot and use your network in a positive way, not transactionally. So yeah, that really helped me to be able to apply and obviously put the work in. So that's also the benefit of communities. And even just thinking about communities, when I mentioned that, what are some examples? Things like online communities, clubs, groups, networks, everything. Because sometimes I know now, especially when you're adults, it can be hard to be present and be in community all the time. But I'm sure Joanne's going to touch on that later. And then I've got this. So I study psychology and I'm also really interested in like neuropsychology. And here's a fact that's actually neurologically, biologically, and psychologically backed. But our body uses social resources, so like people, connections, interactions, as if they were biological resources. And that just shows how important community is, not just for our emotional, mental health, but also our physical health, because it promotes well-being, it promotes positive thinking, it promotes positive emotions. Because one thing that you learn, and if you observe children, is that being in close proximity with people who love and support them helps them to regulate their emotions better, because sometimes you can be going through hardship and you can't process that by yourself. So you need someone, you need a community that can help you process your emotions. Like, how many people literally say in the chat, if you agree that sometimes you might have a bad day, you might have, a negative experience, and you're going to call up your best friend, you're going to call up someone who's dear to you or your mentor and rant to them and get their advice, and they might help you process it or think it through better. How many of you would agree with that? Yeah. And that's the importance of community. But I would be, sorry, I'm just letting people in. I would be lying if I didn't say that there are barriers to being in community. I was actually speaking to Joanne before we hopped on, that I really felt that this webinar was necessary, and it's not for everyone. It's for selective people who want to be in community, because I find that, ever since lockdown, we tend to, we tend to be okay or have a sense of hyper independence, like I can do everything by myself, which can be okay, but it can also be really unhealthy. Um, Sometimes we feel like we're saving our energy by not confiding or trusting people. But as stated with that fact before, our body uses social resources as biological resources. So that can also be what's stopping people from being in community. I actually want to stop here and just ask a question: that can any of you, share something that has stopped you from being in community, or, hindered you, whether it's joining new social circles or reaching out to people or putting yourself forward? What's something that has stopped you from doing that? Anxiety and fear of rejection. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. Being shy to approach people. Absolutely. Fear of negative judgment, lack of self-confidence. That's a room. And yeah, and some of you are mentioning this: past traumas, negative experiences, and stressful environments. Perhaps, in secondary school or just at work, you might have had a negative experience when you confided in someone and they betrayed you, or where you feel like people are perceiving you or have, betrayed you, or you've just been in an environment that didn't show the benefits, like we mentioned, of being in community. You might have been in an environment that caused you more stress and actually brought peace and helped you to co-regulate. And that's honestly a valid, and as well as what you guys have mentioned, barriers to not wanting to be in community or trying to, pursue that. And another barrier that came to mind for me is the poor quality of people. Sometimes we've had people in our lives that we've got the quantity, but not necessarily the quality. So we don't really see the benefits again of being in community. And another thing is familiarity and comfortability. Um, Pursuing new friends, pursuing new. So, like, honestly, making friends when you're an adult can be really hard. So, like, pursuing new friends and, making connections with people, getting to know new people, and like presenting yourself is so unfamiliar and it can be so uncomfortable. And that's, again, a valid barrier to doing so. And lastly, it's the wrong mindset. Unfortunately, you can be in community but not feel like you're in community. You might just feel like you're in a, I don't know, like a, acquaintance group rather than community, because your mindset of community and how you perceive it is based on transaction. It's superficial, it's not in depth. Like, it's not because you guys are, purpose driven together, you're like-minded, but it's because you want the quantity. And all these barriers have their own individual ways to overcome them. And even just looking at some of yours, like being shy, lack of self-confidence, they all have their ways. And I could sit here and I could tell you guys all of them individually. But one thing that I was thinking about is that you have to give yourself the permission to try. Some of us feel like we would be betraying ourselves by trusting people when someone has already done us wrong, but that's not always true. Sometimes you're doing yourself the disservice, you're preventing yourself, you're withholding yourself from the blessings of community. And honestly, you deserve it. So I really hope that after this webinar that you would give yourself the permission to try, whether it's staying connected with what I do here and joining our community over here, but just give yourself the permission to try, to introduce yourself. Yes, you may have, slipped up or done someone wrong in the past, or you may have, presented yourself in a way you don't want to, but forgive yourself and forgive people and allow yourself the opportunity to be loved and love. So before I hand over to Joanne, I want to leave you guys with these three words: community, collaboration, and connection. Human beings, we are literally designed to thrive off connection. So I hope you guys have learned something today, and I will quickly be passing over to Joanne. Let me just stop sharing. Okay, that's me done. Okay, Joe, off to you. I'm just gonna remove myself
No worries.
and have
Hi,
you.
everybody. I can't see no faces, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm just gonna act like it's a FaceTime between me and Diane. It's good. And no, in fact, you guys are all on FaceTime too. Okay. Hi. So my name is Joanne. As Diane said, I lead a community called Her Light, which basically draws the light out of every single woman I meet to walk in purpose, healing, and wholeness. And I'm also an aspiring psychologist, aspiring therapist. I also coach and lead women. And I'm a content creator as well. So I do loads of bits and bobs on the side. But yeah, today I'm just going to be talking to you about how to utilize community and how to actually thrive in community. And I'm going to share a little bit about my story, how Highlight came to be, and my journey in community, because it's not been easy. Like, one thing me and Diane spoke about, like I said before the call, was like actually sometimes the disadvantages in community. Because at the end of the day, people are humans and people are still can have the possibility to still hurt you. And if you grew up in school in the UK, I don't know about you guys, in London, people are brutal, people are rude. Like, your best friends can be cussing you out in secondary school. Like, that's the type of school I went to anyway. So, and I was a very sensitive person. So in community, like, community to me before, I had a very weird angle. Like, I saw it as very traumatic because I didn't understand why people that are close to me are bringing out my insecurities and tearing me down. But these are the same people that are meant to love me. So I had a very love-hate relationship with community, right? And that was in secondary school. I then moved to Norway for 2 years, which I felt like I was completely isolated because then I was in Norway where it was like completely different sets of people. Like I've come from London with all the people that are like, they look like me, they talk like me, and now I'm in Norway and it's a completely different demographic. And because of how I am, I kind of find it easy to adapt to different surroundings. So I was in community, but I still felt like I wasn't thriving in that community. I still felt like the people didn't have the same mindset I had. And it felt like we were all going in different directions. And I want you to remember that different directions because I'm going to come back to that. And after I stayed in Norway for 2 years, I came back to London, which I'm in now, and I started university. When I started university, my first year was very lonely because one thing about me is that I feel like sometimes I could just do things on my own. Like when I'm focused, I'm like, okay, I need to be in the gym by 5 a.m. No one can disturb my routine. I'm focused. And I was very, very focused in first year on like pursuing my goals. I didn't even care to not have friends or to have friends. That was none of my concern. But then what happened was I started getting closer to the Lord. And something he placed on my heart was seek first the kingdom and its righteousness, and all these things shall be added onto you. My mind still wasn't on community, guys. Like I was just like, okay, cool. Like let me seek the kingdom, let me seek the Lord, and everything else will follow. So I started seeking the Lord, and one of the first things he actually brought to me was community. Very well, I wouldn't say oddly because now I understand it. But at the time, I was just like, okay, who are these new people? Like, what you want? And one thing he actually led me to apply to, I know somebody said it before, a community they know is WEN, Women Empowering Nations. And through that, so many doors unlocked for me. And then through that, I had a sense of vision. And if we think about the word community, right, community means a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. And I want you to think about a car, right? A car has all different pieces, but the characteristic is they understand the direction at which it's going at. It understands that I'm moving, I'm made to move and I'm made to go somewhere, and they work cohesively to do that. So even if we think about before, right, how I was in Norway, how I was even in secondary school, I didn't have that much of a direction of where I was going. My vision wasn't that clear. But as soon as I started to seek the Lord, I started to understand myself, and He brought community because in understanding yourself, you know where you're going. Eagles, they fly at a certain height and they fly at that height together because they know where they're going together, right? So, even in the first step of understanding who your community is understanding who you are, understanding who God is, because we're made in His image. And if we're made in that image and we don't know the image, how do we know what we look like, right? And in the Bible it says, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. How are you meant to love these friends and these community members around you if you don't even have the power or the strength to actually love yourself? When people even ask me about friendship and they complain to me about their friends, I'm like, are you a good friend? Are you the friend or the person that you'd want to be to other people? Do you know what I mean? One of the first things I started changing when I noticed I didn't have strong community is how I showed up as a friend, how I showed up as a sister, how I showed up as a daughter. I changed the way I showed up because the thing about community is not how people can give you, but it's how you can give them. It's how you could be of service to other people, right? When a seed is placed in the ground and it grows fruit, the fruit is not for the tree to eat. It doesn't eat its own fruit. Other people eat its fruits. So as we grow and as we blossom and bear fruit, it's to understand that it's for other people, right? And sorry, guys, I hope I'm not rambling because I feel like I've just said it a lot at the same time. Um, but yeah, eagles all fly at the same height. So the first thing I want you to understand is finding the right community is understanding what direction are you going in. And this could be, you could split this into any parts. You could split this into business, you could split this into personal development, family. What is the direction? What is the character traits you want around me? Because as Diane said before, these people around you, they kind of reflect who you are, and they're the people that are holding you accountable. They're the people that are going to really help you go from strength to strength as much as you help them go from strength to strength. And even if we think about that car image, right? Cars have all different pieces and they all work together. That means you may have a friend that is the steering wheel and you're the seat, and it's two different things, but you still have the same purpose. Like, you still know where you're going, right? So you may meet certain people in this life that at first it looks like, oh, you do things a bit differently, but it's so important, it's so special that you should be open to those types of people that don't always do things exactly the way you do it. But when you dig deeper, you understand that you're going in a similar direction, because your destiny helper, they may not look like how you think they may look. And it's not about looks, it's about the heart posture, and as I said, where you're going. And if we're even moving on to how to utilize community, right? Um, I kind of already touched on this before, but serve. I know the word utilize is the first letter in utilize is you, but you serve other people. And you'll see how I don't know why she's rolling her eyes. You'll see how in serving other people, it'll be a blessing unto you, right? Even Jesus, when he came on the earth, they said that he didn't come here to be served, but he came here to serve. His very life was of service. And if we're meant to be mirroring that image, it means that our life is meant to be of service, not even thinking, what can I get in return from this? Some of the best networking events I've been to, some of the best things, like people I've met that have given me so much, my mindset wasn't, how can I use this person? How can I utilize this connection? How can I make this network my network? That has never been the top of my mind, but it's bared me the most fruit, because I come at it with an angle of, how can I be useful unto them? Right? How can I help them? How can I serve them? How can I make their life easier? How could I solve their problem? Even this iPhone that you have, right? It's solving your problem, but you're enjoying it, right? You're spending, and it's taking from you. It's taking your time. And time is one of the most valuable things we could have. And you don't know that it's taking from you because it's serving you. Does that make sense? So yeah, the first thing in utilizing community is serve. It sounds weird, but that it will bear you so much fruit. And then I only have two things for this, but the second thing I would say is lean into your network. Stop being afraid to ask for help. Like, I'm gonna keep on coming back to the same image of the cars and the eagles, because there's no point of saying anything new until you get certain points, right? There's no point of learning so many other things if you haven't actually used what you already know. So, as I said with the car and having different parts, right? You need to understand that you need certain people. Like, I don't know what's up with this British mindset, because it's a very British thing, yeah. That you guys don't like to ask for help. I'm saying you guys as if I don't have a British passport. To me too, I have one. But um we don't like to ask for help. We don't like to seem like, oh, I'm begging it. Oh, I'm one kind. I'm looking like this. It's all in this country is image, image, image. But we need each other. Like, we genuinely need each other. In Genesis, the way the Lord made this world, He made it in an ecosystem, which means that everything works together. Even I went in Norway. I went to the waterfall, right? And the waterfall, like the water in the waterfall, how it actually works is that the rocks clean the water. So you come, that's how spring water is made, like freshly. Like, it's really crazy, but that's how the world is made. Everything is made together to run smoothly, right? And it really got me thinking, like, wow, this is so beautiful, this ecosystem. And this is how we're meant to be. We're meant to be an ecosystem of different people, of different characteristics from different origins, working together to ensure that things run smoothly, you know? So, in understanding that, know that you can ask for help, you can lean on one another, because even in it carrying certain things, right? I always believe that your true friends, and this is when we're talking about friendship, not acquaintances. Your true friends, right? They really reveal themselves in the time of need, in the time where you're not your best, in the time where things aren't always looking like, hey, hooray! Like, it's easy to celebrate someone when things are up, but how is it when things are down? How do you respond to people when things are down for them? And that shows your heart posture and what your aim is, you know? Um, sorry, y'all. I feel like I lost my train of thought. But the point was lean in on your network, and yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. And that's friendship. But if we're talking even in businesses and corporations, right? If you need to send an email, I don't know who this is for. If you need to send an email following up 3 times, you can do that. Yeah. If you need to press onto certain people because you need something done in business, you are able to do that. Friends, on the other hand, don't do that. But business, yeah. So even understand that there's different communities for different things, that like you need to know in your brain the sections of people that you have. Like you have your acquaintances, you have your very close friends, you have business partners, and you all respond to them differently because you're all like you have one purpose in this car, but you have different. Imagine you have different cars. Me, I want different cars. So you have a BMW, you have a Ferrari, you may have a Rolls Royce, right? And all these cars, you may drive them to different places, but they're all still luxury cars that you should treat with respect, right? So see these people in your lives, these groups, as different um car companies. I don't know why we're using cars today, but we're using cars, Shay. But yeah, that's basically what I've learned in community is very much like my understanding, and I'm still learning more. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Diane, for having me. I honor you. Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. You make me laugh so much. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, one thing I was saying to a friend actually, before we move on to Q&A, because we're coming up to the end of the webinar, time flew past. I'm gonna say a few things. So I was saying to a friend that something that I've learned from you is to be present. Because I think sometimes social media, especially I keep saying because of lockdown, um, we're so used to being online friends. Even though it's your friend that you met in school, you maintain your friendship by being online. But if you can, there's so much joy, there's so much fruit in being present physically with your friends. And I love what you said about, serving and service is a way to utilize community because honestly, when you are being a friend, when you are showing up to people, when you are treating people how you want to be treated, you are pouring into the bank of friendship. You're pouring into the bank of community. So
Yeah.
that when you are then in the time of need where you need your community, you have something to like draw from because you've also poured into the bank of your community. So you're not just going to have a friend and be transactional straight away. It takes time. It takes integrity. It takes history to be able to actually have a solid community. So I hope like what Joanne has said that one of the first keys to being in community and how to build it is to first show yourself friendly. Show yourself as being, like show the value of people being your friend, not sell yourself to people, but understand your values. Because when you know your values, you know your worth, and you can decide who's worthy of your time and your. So I'm just going to open up the floor for some questions. Does anyone have questions or comments or thoughts that you would like to ask either me or Joanne? You can put it in the chat. How do you decipher the people to keep close and have as acquaintances?
How do you decide? That's a really good question. Hmm. I think let me be slow for answering this because I like this question. But The first thing that came to my mind is you don't need to be in a rush to make everybody your friend, especially for people that like us. Like I know because you're on this call that you are a person that goes out and you are in community and you form many connections, right? So I think in forming many connections, if you're like a very friendly person, because I'm very friendly and instantly I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to make this person my friend. It's just understanding that not everybody is your friend. And you need to allow that time for a relationship to build, right? You need to allow that time to actually understand people. You need the time to like test their character, not necessarily test their character, but allow time to pass where you can actually have discern their spirit and discern who they are to you, because it will literally just show in time. That's why I would say don't be in a rush and give it time.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like I can answer that question because Joanne, remember we were speaking, I was like, I'm so particular. Like, I can be really friendly with people, but it doesn't not mean you're my friend.
Yeah.
And the way that I go about that is it's knowing who I am. Like this person can be friendly, but like do we actually go together? Do you know sometimes like because when you're actually friends with the wrong people, there's so much friction. Iron sharpens iron, but if iron was of wood, there's going to be a whole lot of problems. So I'd say the way to, decipher between close friends and acquaintances, as well as Joanne said, giving it time. But what is the quality of that bond? What is the depth of it? What are you learning? Sometimes if there's no, like quality, and you kind of examine it based on your other friends, so you have levels. So you do it based on your other friends, like where does this person fit? I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying, but if you've got a friend, who you can call any time of the day, he's going to be there for you, and then you've just met this new person who's, very distant, then they don't match up to the quality that you already have. So you know where to place them.
I was gonna say sometimes you don't know. Like certain people would look like they would make really good friends. And this is the reason I said time, because some people look like they would be such good friends. It looks like you're going in a similar direction. And I'm speaking from experience myself. But they're not necessarily like you're not compatible. I think there's a level of compatibility in friendship because even sorry guys, cars. Even with cars, right? You can have a wheel. That's kind of my car example, but listen to my car example. Even in cars, right? You can have a wheel, they're both a wheel, and one wheel is for the Range Rover and the other wheel is for the Rolls Royce. And they're both good wheels, but one isn't going to fit in the other because they're for different cars. So what I try to say with that example, I hope it makes sense, is that there could be an amazing person, but they're not for you. They're not for where
Absolutely.
you're going. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And then, oh, another thing, sorry, that's come to mind is that sometimes like you need to know that you and other people have different capacities when it comes to hearts. So, and the capacity to love, you could be friends with someone who's, just a 250 ml bottle and you're 1 liter, and they might be giving you everything that they have, but it's not enough for you. But then you are giving them everything that you have and they're overflowing. And I think it's meeting people where they are and not expecting more than they already are. Because someone could be your close friend, but not be able to, fulfill everything. And that's why you need different cars, like Joanne said. And then another question, the last one that we had was, how would you suggest getting into those places where you can build community? I'm going to answer this in two parts because I thought when you initially wrote it was like how to get to the place, because you need to take the time to heal and to understand what we did today, your barriers and how you could potentially overcome them, and also understand who you are as a friend and the value, the network, the connections that you can give other people, because everybody's valuable, everybody knows someone, and you can get someone to a place that they can't without you. Um, you need to take that time before you launch into getting into community because you will get hurt because you haven't prepared. And you could get hurt regardless because, like Joanne said, people are people. And how to get into the environments, there's so many amazing networks like Her Like Net, where it's a network of women and they meet up, they do events, there's things like that. There's a lot of online communities that has made it easier to be in those places. There's university societies if you're in university, and there's just taking the extra step. Like you could meet someone at work and it's like asking them, "Oh, how was your weekend?" Just taking the further step to, place yourself in those um places, but be selective. Like we said, not everyone is for you. Do you have anything,
Yeah,
Joanne?
yeah, that I completely agree with that. I think in adult friendship, you need to be extremely intentional about actually showing up. I have one of my closest friends. I actually have a lot of international close friends, but it means we don't see each other all the time. But we are very intentional with like we at least talk once a week. And we literally have a day every Wednesday. We check up on each other and we fill each other in on what we've done throughout the week. And we decided to do that because what we realized was we kept on missing each other. We guys would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna call you." We're like, "Okay, let's intentionally do this because I know you're one of my close friends and I value you and I appreciate you." So even in taking the first step of maybe going to a networking event or putting yourself in those places, you need to have the courage and have the ability to actually be intentional and follow up with those people that you want to build those relationships with, because relationships are built. They're not made in one day.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Joanne, and thank you everybody who has joined. And I love it about the Wednesday. Me and my friends, we do Wednesday waffles. My
Yeah,
international, and it really helps. Like just sometimes life gets busy and you really have to like schedule or know that it's this set day. But I hope we've helped you guys to understand why you should be in community, the benefits of it and how to use it. And I
yeah.
hope you guys have an amazing, amazing rest of your week. And I'll see you in the next one. Follow me on Instagram and you'll know about our next month's webinar.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you guys.
All right, Jay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.